right, welcome ladies and gentlemen. We will call our meeting to order. It's 7:15, we're a little late starting, just making sure that the internet is working here at Rec Center. And I have a motion moved by Councilor Lafferty, seconded by Councilor McPherson, that council adopt the agenda of regular meeting RM15-2020 as amended. Okay, there will be a couple of changes, hopefully, and one of them is under delegations, less right, representing the citizens who signed the liquor plebiscite petition is here to get an update and say a few words to us this evening. So I'd like to add that under 6A. Under table items and old business, I think 9B, I'd like to bring up a previous motion that was passed at last regular meeting to discuss how it complies with our council procedures bylaw. There might have been an issue with that. I want to bring it up to council's attention. Issues that any council would like to see on the agenda tonight. Yes, Councilor Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe council solicitor mentioned, I think it was, should be on the, I think it's 9, should be 9 ABC.
Okay.
The table, kind of table item.
Okay. We'll put it there, and if somebody would like to address that, then that's fine. So under 9C, fire department. I do want to talk a little bit about the letter that I passed to you, which is the letter from Minister Knockleby, Minister of Infrastructure, regarding the letter we wrote about a couple of highway issues. I think I will just talk about that in the mayor's report, but you can certainly say what you want. Maybe it's better to say new business. 11A INF letter. And that's so that way it's more open to everybody. Open for some discussion on this letter that we received. And is there any other changes, amendments that anybody wants to make? Okay, if not, then let's ask for a show of hands. All in favor of the amended agenda? Okay, can you hear me okay?
You're kind of coming, like you're in a narrow.
Okay. I wonder if we could just maybe we'll move the phone here. Move the phone closer, how's that? Okay, right on. So 7 in favor, 9 against. Motion's carried. And who's not here? No. Has anybody received notification from Councilor Morrow that he would not be able to make it this evening? No, okay, you did? Okay, then I'll make that up. First, number 4, declarations of interest. Do any of the councilors have any declarations to make? Okay, well, reminder, if you do, if you realize that you are in conflict, just declare at that time. You can't do it now. Councilor absences. So I'll write in the council excused Councilor Morrow from regular meeting RM 15-2020. We'll call failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look at that. What we're gonna do from here on out. Yeah, Bell just seems to have gone down. Comes back. Yeah.
Just look at it, just look wherever.
If they didn't want to hear what we have to say. Yeah, it's working. All right. All right, so by our own council procedure file, we have to be recording, so we're going to just do it with audio here from now on until maybe we get a signal. Anyone notice? From now on until maybe we get a signal. Anyone notice the signal coming through on the phone? We'll go back to the video. All right, so motion moved by Councilor McPherson, seconded by Councilor Lafferty. The council excused Councilor Morrow from village's regular meeting RM 15-2020. All in favor? 6 in favor, none against, and maybe if we should make a note that deputy mayor is disconnected. So. All right, so now we do have the left, right, and perhaps I can invite you to this table. Cheryl, want to come with you? Or? No. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a chair there. And okay, and yeah, just go ahead and tell us what's on your mind there.
Hey, I was wondering where it's been 8 months, and I watched you guys have voted in the meeting or anything. So you guys have voted to postpone it until after COVID. COVID may never end, so I'd like to get it over with sooner than later.
Right.
School starting in a month. Do you think the adults in this town are not as smart or careful as the kids? If you think that, then maybe you should recommend that they don't go to school this year. And it's been 8 months. I heard somebody say, oh, the band wasn't informed. They weren't informed 8 months ago. I remember the chief was here at the meeting that when I came forward with the issue. And if nothing's been done in 8 months, they had more than ample time to have a meeting and discuss it between themselves. And then kind of self-government. Each community can self-govern their own rational system if they want. So we're not their big brother. Like, actually, we're bullies. We're pushing our system on them. And they all go to Hay River, Yellowknife, or Port Nelson during non-COVID times, and and get all their alcohol there instead of here. So we lose a lot of money by them not coming. Like our northern, our hotels, our gas. Gas. What else do I have? And I'd just like to have the community have a vote on this.
Anybody want to try that? Celine?
So you can try to see.
Okay, hold that thought for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Put you back on video here, okay?
Came back on.
Hopefully it doesn't go down again. Hello, Deputy Mayor. You got disconnected because the bell dropped the entire system there for about 5 minutes. Kept going, we just used the audio, and we did have the delegate, make his presentation, which was last right. We started, and it was concerned about the status of where we were with, website, basically that was his question. I'm not sure if he wants to continue, in that vein, or if he's.
No, I think I said everything.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as far as where we're at with that, we believe that everything from this point forward is really the responsibility of the GMWT, that we've done what we need to do. That we passed a resolution way back in December to notify the finance minister that the question that needed to be asked, which was the question that needed to be asked, which was the question to be the elimination of the liquor rationing system currently in place. As you say, 6 months later, we did get minister saying they were ready to go, as long as things could be done safely. That, I think, garnered a little bit of discussion about when the safety aspect. If you stick around for a little bit, you might hear the aspect. If you stick around for a little bit, you might hear what we're going to say that we discussed regarding delaying the plebiscite, or asking the minister to delay until it was over. Because that was over. Because that's a problem. Motion, there was an issue with council procedures bylaw in that regard. So there was an issue with council procedures bylaw in that regard. So we're going to revisit that. But nothing has been said to the Minister of Finance to tell him to slow down. As far as we know, the Minister is going ahead, although we can't update you. Right, Aseo?
Yes, yes.
Aseo?
Yes, yes.
I look around this room, I don't see anybody wearing masks, right?
No.
We're all adults. We're all gonna be voting in this thing. So, what, and you guys are gonna be voting on something today. Do you think, the population of Fort Simpson dead? Like,
Yeah, I mean, as far as,
we have here,
yeah, and it is their call. It's really their whole process.
okay?
All we can do is say, hold it. And then they take over from there. Over from there. Even us saying something in a letter wouldn't probably have any real impact one way or the other. Have any real impact one way or the other, I don't think.
Or if you said, let's have this like sooner than later. This, like sooner than later, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd like to.
Yeah.
I don't know, well, I understand the COVID thing. I don't know, well, I understand the COVID thing were a little delayed, but now that we have the okay, I think it's time to pack the boat.
Mhm. Yeah, going in. Yeah, going in, and there's a step-by-step process that GMT has to follow with the Elections and Plebiscite Act and the Finance, the Finances Liquor Act.
How long does it take to have a regular vote?
I think
Among the acts.
Yeah, it basically follows the same kind of pattern as a municipal election, how they appoint and the amount of time allotted when the questions put forward and, the actual vote happens, how they determine who's on the electors list and all this kind of stuff. It's all pretty much mirroring municipal elections act.
So that usually takes like 6.
It would be somewhere in that kind of neighborhood, yes. So the quicker they get returning officer appointed, we don't do it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
those are, I think that's just a phone call, because we've always had one.
Yeah, it's the chief of the NWT that appoints a local returning officer. Everything's run under the chief electoral officer. Uh, That, as far as we know, is exactly, we have, that as far as anything to contradict that, so we're just waiting for them to start putting that.
Okay, I'll stick around and wait for discussion on.
Sure. Okay. Right. Did anybody have any further questions for Mr. Rice? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. All right, so adoption of minutes, item 7, we don't have any minutes to adopt this evening. Reports, mayor's report. I think I'll just skip that tonight. We've got some other issues and some concerns and things that may come up in other areas, so I don't want to use that time right now. SAO report, is there any specifics?
Yes, I have a few. The first one is important sewer improvements. These have all been done. The whatever is left now is will be done under the chip seal project. And with the chip seal, the contractor is starting between the 15th and the 18th of this month. Then we have the previous items like the school traffic lights, and then the speed limit signs. The traffic lights, and then the speed limit signs. The school traffic lights we have already placed orders for the lights. We've identified and we have ordered them. We've also ordered the two speed limits that we talked about in the previous council meeting. Tomorrow we get in. VIC office appraisal. Tomorrow we get in an appraisal from Yellow Navy. He's coming in to do the appraisal between tomorrow and Friday. That's on the VIC office building appraisal. Yes. The next one is zoning bylaw. We appointed Matthew McElligott. He wants to call me at the next town meeting to explain certain things to council. I don't know what is done so far. So that's, it will be at the dates at the next town meeting. That will be next week, Monday. Sorry, I missed the name. It's Matthew McElligott.
He's making a presentation
To council on the Community Capital Development Bank. The name of this company is Fontaine. Actually, they are the ones who did the development plan for the city of Yellowknife. The last one is just administration. We had an auditor coming in to do some audit went for 8 days and he left on Friday. So this went for 8 days and he left on Friday. So this year the audit had delayed because of COVID. They couldn't come here to do it. So we had to send some of the information to them. We wanted to do it in Yellowknife, but they still had to send somebody here. So the person came the week before last and last week to do some of the audit. Maybe by the end of this month, we could get our audit report. So that's all that I need to say from.
Anybody have any questions for our SAO? All right. All right. Then item 10, committee minutes and recommendations. We do not have any. Item 11.
Sorry, I cannot.
Oh, sorry, 9. Sorry, we're 9. 9, 8.
Sorry, I cannot.
Oh, sorry, 9. Sorry, we're 9. 9, 8. COVID-19. That's an agenda item that we're keeping on. And did anybody have or want to speak to that item? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Thinking that council would consider, mandating mask being and, maybe, the northern store would have, things are kind of black, so I'm looking to, have a makeup bylaw, to, have a makeup bylaw until this year or next, I guess. Just to make mask mandatory in the northern. Just to make mask mandatory in the northern store for now.
Okay, you say make masks mandatory in Northern Store or all stores? What will that bylaw look like?
Well, that's you guys to put in your thoughts on that too. Store because the northern store has customers from the surrounding community. Also, I want to see what the other councils think about that. And the other item is that we should maybe consider working together to have a food bank for our residents
That last part, you said you wanted to know enough. That last part, you said you wanted to know an update on what?
And the public meeting,
Okay.
COVID-19.
Okay. There's no exact motion put forward, but a discussion item has been proposed by the deputy mayor to look at possibility, to look at possibility of introducing a bylaw for mandatory mask wearing at the northern store, potentially other stores, other services as well. Any councilors have any thoughts on that? Yes, Councilor Hassan.
Thank you. In fact, people are being very careful. I mean, honestly, in fact, people are being very careful. I mean, honestly, when you enter the northern store or the store or any other store, you use hand sanitizer, we have that, but it's just a question. Are we the only going to do that? And why are we making it difficult for to deal with the service in the community? Although I agree with the deputy mayor on that issue. Right now we have a policy, and we even know the store have a policy where whoever comes to the store who is from out in the community, we have a sign at the door asking them to request a mask before they enter the store. They call the number and they read behind have the same policy outside the store, outside the doors. So not force people to change some of their habits. If someone doesn't want to come or someone ignore sanitizing their hands, that will be the responsibility of the person who will be in the store, another store, the store, or whatever. I don't see any reason for the council to get deep in that part. If there is anything, let us discuss it with the interagency meeting and see what the other buildings do, how your mind is dealing with the situation, how they end up dealing with this issue. Because right now, until now, there is no treatment for COVID, but it's kind of getting slower. And from now on, and the future, we don't know when in phase two, we're going to start as the survived nation. In September, the schools are going to open. So where are we going to go? Okay, the students, you wear the mask. Okay, if you are walking on the street, wear the mask. What's
Okay. So I don't know if you heard that the mayor of Council did have some reservations about that. And he said that he thought that basically people were being quite careful right now, so he didn't think that that was necessary or would be effective to force people to do that. Does anybody have any other thoughts? Yes, Councilor.
I think about us imposing, I think if no store wanted to impose masks, call, we can suggest it, but I don't think we can pass by. Everybody has to wear a mask when they go into the store.
Yeah, there may be limits to what we can do, especially if we're not doing it as a universal type thing. It makes it look like we're targeting certain
Exactly.
businesses perhaps.
We gotta be careful, it's something that we have to look into, we can't just go and make it.
Okay, Councilor Rafferty?
I don't think it's up to us, Matt. I think if anyone is compelled to impose something like that, if it's really necessary. I know there are strangers around when you go to the store too.
Right. So two concerns there. One is that we might not have the authority, you might say, to do it. And then if we pick on one store, it might not look that good and could be resisted. And Councilor Lafferty says that perhaps we should work more with the health department and let them make the call. I suppose we have concerns. And who knows how that will end up becoming made into some sort of law if required. But there's nothing wrong. I know I'm going department and another one of these conferences with chiefs and mayors. And I can certainly bring that up if the government's thinking about implementing something like that, the way the provinces have. And that it was at least addressed or brought up as a concern. Does anybody else have any thoughts, any councilors? Yeah?
My last comment.
Okay, Councilor San has one last comment.
I believe the GNWK information in the bill, honestly, we are very careful to deal with the residents and keep the residents safe. So it's not only that, if you want to start like doing, issuing this kind of regulations, at least we should consult with the businesses. Why are we mentioning northern stores? Why are we mentioning other stores? They can, but we cannot impose on any business what we want. Thank you.
So I guess just to reiterate, who does not think that imposing on one business would be a good idea, and perhaps we're all doing above and beyond what the health department is asking. The stores are going beyond in many ways, so it doesn't feel it's necessary right now. I think it's at the update meetings with, I'm assuming it might be the MACA minister and the health minister. Maybe Candola will be there as well. So I can ask some questions about that, the likelihood that that might happen, what would trigger it, if they're looking for certain types of outbreaks before they do it, or if they're going to do it preventatively, if they see big increases down south. I can get more information and bring back to council on that.
According to the CTV Act, we do have the ability to make bylaws for municipal purposes respecting, like on item number 70, the safety, health, and welfare of people and the protection of people. So that's where, if we consider people use masks in some facilities like the northern, I think we have that ability to make that, but I think we should wait until you speak with the premier and see what's going on. But what's been happening in the last week with a lot of concerns with people being in the community without permission. There's more than 5 people that have entered the community that have not self-isolated and exposing our population to possible exposing them, although thank God nothing happened. That's not going to be the last we're going to hear of it. There's going to be more. So just for the, like this COVID-19, for protecting our population. So I think we as a council have to make every effort to ensure that we're trying to keep our people safe. And this COVID is going to stay here for another couple of years for sure. So that's something for you maybe to speak to the premier about it. There's no appetite from the other councillors to go any further with this. At least I brought it up and asked to bring this up, so I have, and so our people will probably hear this on probably whatever is going, wherever we're airing this.
Right. No, I appreciate your thoughts on it, because you never know. Maybe that will be some direction that ends up being taken, but, see the plan.
Yes, and I don't think we have to wait for the health to tell us anything. We can gauge it ourselves and decide for ourselves. I don't need the health to tell me that or anybody else. It is a concern to a lot of people.
Maybe that's one thing I will ask, the MACA department, is whether we actually would have the authority to do such a thing.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
And also about that food bank, I'd like to get people's thoughts on that.
Okay, that was the second item brought up by the engineer, basically, some sort of food bank idea related to the issue of people needing help with COVID-19, not being employed. Any thoughts? I mean, there's a food being operated.
We have the subscription, we still have the food bank,
Okay, so Councilman Person said there is a food bank at the Friendship Center, and how many days a week did you say? 3 days a week. I have heard, a lot of concerns about food shortages amongst certain people right now. I mean, I realize there's a lot of curb money coming in the community. It seems like people are having trouble accessing. We can talk to some of the other agencies that are delivering the programs to see if they need any assistance or support in doing those things. You know, if they have experienced any trouble. It's a good heads up for us to be aware of that.
It's something for everybody to think about.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Anybody have any, yes, Councilor Citizen?
Just regarding COVID-19, I was just wondering if there were public health office, there was a news article that was brought to my attention recently. Apparently 30 people have been hired in here in Fort Simpson. I'm just wondering who those people are.
Right, so Councilor Simpson asking, who are the task force and enforcement people right now, looking out for us? He says he read an article where there was 30 people hired. I'm not sure if these are the new people that will be dedicated solely to that job, because that was what the Premier was looking at doing. Probably thinking 6 months to a year, that type of operation might have to be done. But right now, the 30 people you're talking about, I believe, are drawn from other departments when we aren't doing their other job. So the difficulty is responding quickly to calls or on-site demands for them to go somewhere. And that's why the Premier is asking for, that's as far as I know right now.
Were they hired?
I don't think they were hired. I think they were given additional responsibilities to the team.
And who are they?
Well, in this town, I know, Ian is be taking that role right now, maybe one or two ENR people doing that. No, sorry, lands department people, I know for a fact, lands department.
So the Department of Land is sort of doubling as public health.
One or two people from that department are doing that.
What are their names? Why would the public office?
Yeah, well, because you don't call that person anyway, that's not how the system works. And then it gets directed through, it's just, that might not be the right way to do things. I don't want to do that without knowing that that is the right way.
The person that's.
I wouldn't call it
wanting to
a
learn. Because that was what the impression was from the article, is that these people are not supposed to know who they are.
Oh, that could
And
be,
normally a public official will identify them,
yeah.
right? And that way you know when you're dealing with a public official. But apparently there are public officials now conducting business in Fort Simpson, unbeknownst to members of the community.
Right. But it's a little bit like the RCMP. I mean, we wouldn't sit around and say, well, here are the names of the RCMP, and if you have a problem, call them, because that's not what you do. You call 911 or 1111, and you go to a dispatch and get properly vetted, and the call will go to whichever RCMP there are. It's just, you know, these people are here. One of them did make a call to me as a courtesy to inform me of an action that actually happened recently here, and that they had gone and checked out 3 individuals who come to the community, and they ended up being self-isolated at the hotel and then escorted out of town the next day. So I was updated on that situation. And at that time, I found out the person's name. But I don't
So
think
Land's
that's
officers now are enforcing those public health officers. That's what's happening?
Yes, that was the first
So
time.
they'll be wearing a uniform and marked vehicles and stuff?
Yeah, like I say, they're only doing this part-time. Their full-time job is E&R. So, they try, oh, land, I keep saying E&R, but at first they were gonna allocate between lands or E&R, depending on which department was less busy.
I'm just wondering if they're wearing a uniform while they're doing that job or not. That's all. If there's not, if they're wearing a uniform, the driver can mark vehicles, then that's understandable. I just wondering if they're.
Well, I can get more information for you on that. Concerns that people aren't really aware of the specifics of the proper uniforms being used when they.
Yeah, it's like, there's protocols, right? There's rules for that kind of thing.
Okay, so a little concerned about the task force. And
Yeah, I'm just I'm concerned about people conducting government business in Fort Simpson without public knowledge. And without anybody knowing that they're conducting enforcement activities, without wearing a uniform, or without anybody knowing who they are. That's what I'm concerned about.
okay, yeah, and I think I'm gonna bring that to the table with the health minister. So I'll have a little more for you there. Okay, so that was kind of going back to the COVID thing, and we kind of talked a little bit about the food bank idea. The last idea that was discussed by the deputy mayor was the idea of a interagency meeting with input from lots of community members. There's issues we're having in our community, as we're talking about them even tonight, with the task force, with people coming in from out of the community, we're not understanding fully how things are happening. But we can sort of determine what level of safety we're willing to have. A wider selection of people getting on how that might look would be good. I mean, I don't want to be the only person in Fort Simpson who goes out to the press and says this is health rules. These are the rules to protect identity and look at them yourself. I'm not making rules and I'm not telling people anything different than what the GNWT has said. But if there's something different that Fort Simpson wants, then I think that's what we want to be enhanced safety measures, or we want to make changes to existing rules to fit it better into our situation, and we should talk about that and funnel that information back to the health department, I think. So, our counselors, what do they think about public meeting? I don't want to do it if they're not interested. Okay.
Or preparing to delay a public plebiscite for the same reasons, and then we're talking about having a public meeting, so it might be a little bit, maybe confusing for people to see those, on one hand, we're having a public meeting to discuss COVID-19, and then the other, we're suspending a democratic process because of COVID-19, you know what I mean? We're having a democratic process because of COVID-19, and on the one hand, we're suspending a democratic process.
And, I mean, what I came to is that, I haven't been part of a tri-council meeting lately. And I think there's a couple issues, COVID-19, concerns among the tri-council, certainly one I'd like to get a little bit more input, from the other leaders in the community, and put a united front on what the community is trying to do as far as keeping us safe. Everybody's aware, everybody's on the same page. Not everybody's fully informed. I find a lot of people in the community have slightly different ideas of what self-isolation means, and, you know, who should be allowed back, who shouldn't. I'm more aware, not of at least the existing regulations, what the rest of the community is wanting. So I think, and I was talking to the deputy mayor, that I was planning on doing that. The public meeting, maybe we can look at doing something after our meeting with tri-council and see where they want to go with it. Either more community input through the interagency meetings or what have you, but we'll see.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna say that's COVID-19 table item. We talked a little bit about it, unless anybody has any last thoughts on COVID-19. Okay, let's go to, last week's motion. And it ended up being passed. I think there was 6 votes in total last week, 3 votes for, 2 were abstained, and 1 was against. And the motion, the resolution read something to the effect that in favor of the plebiscite on the liquor system, we were going to ask that the plebiscite be delayed until and I think the wording was until the pandemic was over. And then there was also another way of who gets CC to responses. Letters we write. Okay. So the main thing was that when I looked at that resolution, and nobody else really noticed or brought it up at the time, when we revisit a motion that's already passed, and because what ended up happening with this motion, maybe never. So that kind of basically negated the first motion, which was we're lobbying to get the plebiscite done. And when you revisit a motion in that kind of way, where you just alter it to the degree where you're reversing yourself, there's a certain procedure that has to be used. Somebody who voted previously for the original motion, or the original resolution, has to give notice that they're changing their vote. That has to be done, I think, a week ahead to the council, and then it's discreet. It's done that way so that motions aren't just revisited all the time. On who the councilor, makeup is at the next meeting. And so what I found this time is just unfortunate, I guess, the way that came out. I know it was a safety concern by the deputy there. She simply was trying to reinforce the fact that she wanted the finance minister not to go ahead if it was not safe. But the finance minister in her letter did say they would not do it until they felt it was safe. And so I just don't want that motion or that resolution to stand as I feel that it broke our council procedures bylaw. So I didn't act on it. I wanted to come to you and talk to you about it and see what the council's thoughts on that were, because basically I think we should be rescinding that resolution just by way of the fact it didn't meet our council procedures bylaw. And Mayor, do you want to speak to that at all? Because that was your motion. Did you have a chance to take a look at council procedures bylaw on that?
No, I really haven't.
Okay.
Are you asking me to retract this?
Well, no, I'm not even sure now at this stage what would need to be done. Perhaps we'll ask, in essence, we did something perhaps that didn't follow our council procedures bylaw. I'll get a little more input from the ag department on that. Explain what happened, and I'll get back to the council with that. But I can't move forward with that letter to the finance minister, and my feeling is that everything should just remain as is, and that we're moving ahead with getting this plebiscite going until I hear back from the ag department on this concern.
That motion was that, that she said Jerry asked for the copy on that letter.
Right, and I did look at the original letter, and I guess we didn't CC him either. So,
Up to the minister to see the chief.
right, and then while it might have been a good thing, I know we didn't do it, so protocol and letter that you see at the bottom of that letter as well, you don't leave anybody out of the loop, but to tell you the truth, when we wrote that letter to the minister, we did not CC the chief ourselves, so that might have been an oversight on our part, but we didn't do it. So, but I understand what you're saying, that, it's good to have information shared on things like that.
It is just courtesy.
Yeah. That's kind of in limbo right now, but I'm going to look into it a little bit further with MAC representative and get a legal opinion on what we're going to do with that motion. Okay? Right, now, any thoughts on that? Any councilors? Okay, let's go to the, under table items and old business, the fire buffer. Uh, Another emergency item. Doesn't look like we're gonna get, any more fires, or fire safety. Did anybody want to make any comments this week about the fire buffer? Okay,
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess I should just mention that the liability of having big areas of forest right next to residential areas that are within the municipal boundary that are unmaintained. And I think it's a big liability, and it is a situation where people's lives are at stake, and it's the kind of thing, it's a situation that can come up really quickly. Forest fires can come up really quickly. They catch people by surprise. They catch big towns with more residents, more authorities alert than we've got, and more resources than we've got that can burn the community right to the ground. So this is what I think as a situation. I'm a common sense bush guy, right? I was, hunting around and running around the bush since I was a little kid here. You always make fires, and you have to be careful with fire because the fire can get away. And you have to make sure that you don't make a fire in an area where there is a chance of it getting away into that bush. Otherwise, the fire is not helping. The fire could do you in. And this is the situation we're in, where we've let these large areas of forest become over-matured, and they're big fire hazards, and they're right next to these residential areas. So I guess I have to keep mentioning it, and somebody came up for me to talk about it a little bit, and here I am mentioning it again, that it is dangerous, and that it would be in our best interest to find the means to encourage land to make sure properties are not causing a hazard for other close property owners or other people in the community. Now, if there's a way to do that with a bylaw, or if there's a way to enforce that somehow, to make sure that there are no absentee landlord property owners who don't really exist, that are not really there, they're just claiming all the land as theirs without ever having to pay for it or paying any taxes on it, I understand. But to maintain a fire hazard and to ensure and guarantee that that fire hazard is going to exist right by those communities that's remiss. To me, it's disrespectful to human life, and it's not the kind of way that I'd like to have a scar in our community of a big burn area, where there used to be a bunch of means to get those properties under control.
right. And it does all come back to the fact that it's GMWT's properties that were identified by themselves as being the highest risk areas around Wild Rose, around Bannockland. They, in 10 years ago, called themselves the Land Status Authority, and that it was their responsibility to ensure that there was wildfire protection in these identified areas. 10 years later, they called us the Land Status Authority. 3 words that you can piece together that you can Google it, you'll never find anybody's definition for Land Status Authority. Just 3 random words thrown together. But all right, we have authority for certain things. We don't really have authority over land, other than what belongs to us. But we do have authority to make bylaws and zoning. So maybe we should zone their land as wildfire buffer zones, and tell them that now under the village's land status authority, they have to comply and make them fire smoke. There. So there's a roundabout way to getting them to do what they're supposed to do, which is take care of their own property, and maybe do what we're told we are, which is the land status authority. I don't know. Okay, we've asked straight head on, look, take care of your own properties. They're a danger to the people in the Wild Rose area and other areas. We self-identified, said that we should do that ourselves. It's really, well, it ties in as well with the idea about Wild Rose subdivision and the Tetzel Trail. I mean, that road belongs to the territorial government, but they don't want us to go on it, but they won't let us fix it, and they won't pay to fix it themselves. I just don't understand what the GMUT's objective is in not making the lives of people here in Fort Simpson better and safer. Yes, Councilor Lafley.
Yes, I noticed, driving through the campground there a few days ago, and there's a lot of trees that are rotten and falling, and so that just needs to be cleaned out as well. So, and they're pretty big, pretty thick. Yeah. I think we've got to have to keep that stay on them.
As we get back from the territorial government are, they're really misdirections. They're like sleight of hand. They talk about other things, and they're meant to confuse and delay, dealing with an issue. I don't understand the grip on these things. We've seen lots of examples of major community fires, what's happened. Surely the cost of that to the territorial government is much more than simply proactively addressing the issues now, working with the community, which we are saying we're ready and willing to do. Simply writing something on a piece of paper and saying that you're willing to work with somebody with no resources or money or anything else given to you is not working with you. So we just got to keep the pressure on.
Well, can we have a motion? The thing is that in an emergency situation, like we're okay, it can be a big expense. It can be a big expense to maintain property. And to improve property costs a lot of money. It's a big investment. And but when you have a neighbor who's not, your property is the one that takes the hit. If you're trying to develop your property and then your neighbor's not developing the property, you wind up getting your property value is not increasing. Right, so it's like living in that's why they have these bylaws, right? They have these zoning bylaws. That's what they're all about. To make sure that you're not surrounded by people living in a completely different manner. We're in a zone here where people are maintaining their property, and this is the kind of zone that we're in. This is a community, a municipality, it's a residential place, residential areas. People live in here, and there's no fire, and this is completely inadequate to fire to deal with a major wildfire. I mean, I've seen forest fires across the river, jump across the Mackenzie River where it's 2 miles wide, and there were hot ashes coming over. You can see the fire on the other side of the smoke, and it's just jumping over, and the fire is bleeding across the river, 2 miles wide. So there's is it I believe that it's realistic. I think that it's a really good thing to be.
Well, one thing that we could do is look at getting a legal opinion on the liability that the territorial government is facing by on fire. Well, do they have liability? Is law practice by where they're liable for what happens to your property? I'm pretty sure there is. Now, they're the ones that identified the high risk. They identified it on their property, and they also identified themselves as the responsible party 10 years ago. Simply changing a line item on their report 10 years later may not have escaped the liability for them. So I'd like a legal opinion. And then, having done that, we can look at what else we want to do as far as zoning or putting some other pressure on them. But at least for the residents of Fort Simpson, if ever a fire started in those areas, they might have a leg up legally in suing the territorial government for who the responsible party is. And, maybe we should find this out.
And also
legislation to review.
And also prevention is more than accountability. And so this is why this little investment up front that we're talking about in regarding to clearing fire sparking areas and do that. It seems like a reasonable request to those people who are benefiting from being the property owners of such valuable properties. They probably already mortgaged them to the bank in Yellowknife already. So what's the problem?
Yeah, well, maybe let's leave that for a committee meeting to talk about what further actions we can take, a few ideas there. We got a few other items to get to, I don't want to dwell too long on that, but, anybody else have any thoughts on the fire buffer? Just trying to move on here, okay, let's go to committee minutes and recommendations, we don't have any tonight. Under new business, the INF letter, I gave you all a copy of it. We got an answer to two our concerns. One was the Dulé Highway and how it was that the condition of the highway had deteriorated to such an extent. I read one portion of the answer which says that this damage was further exacerbated by the increased precipitation as well as the gravel haul from kilometer 518, which was permitted by INF, that's the infrastructure department, to support the village chip seal program. Well, the unfortunate part of that is it makes it look like highways blaming us for the poor condition of their highways. We did not ask highways to allow loads during the road ban to come into Fort Simpson. And usually when somebody does you a favor, they let you know. Well, this is apparently how they're letting us know they did us a favor. We wrecked the road to Dulé to help you chip seal your roads. That's an insulting answer to me. Second is the answer in regards to the 4-mile access road and Tesla Trail. We were talking about getting some cooperation within the next 2 weeks on that road. We recognize it is their road, we're not going to go on their road, we're trespassing if we did, and they told us that already. But their answer as to whether they're willing to work with us in the next 2 weeks, they start talking about 2022 and future work that they plan on doing, and that they may be chip sealing in the summer of 2022, a time when they say they'll be able to benefit from economies of scale because they, the Department of Transportation, will have other chip sealing going on in the area. Well, you're going to pay for it in 2022? We don't know that. We've seen so many capital projects get delayed, like our health center. Where is our health center? 10 years ago, we got promised to see a health center in 5 years. Now it's somewhere on the 10 or 20-year plan. We don't even know how far back it is. And economies of scale, if they're looking for them, they can happen right now. We're doing a $4.2 million project right now. There's no better time to jump in on that. Spend the $188,000 to fix their roads. It's so badly neglected in the past, allows mostly Dene residents better access to their own properties. I don't understand when I look at things like the Ingrove Trail, where a bunch of mostly non-Aboriginal people built cabins out past Yellowknife and got that road asphalted with, nice thick asphalt for $1 million cabins. We're talking about people living simple lives in Fort Simpson that just want a little bit less dust in the roadway. And we can't even get that. After years of neglect on the road. It's a sad response, untimely. It's simply response as far as that. So I did talk to the MLA this morning, and he did take a concern in this issue. Talk to him by tomorrow. I only got this response letter this afternoon, so I'll be talking to MLA Shane Thompson tomorrow to see. August 15, 18, the start of the actual chip sealing. So if something can be sorted out here in the next, I think we can probably get that overlay and ditching or drainage done that we need to do. The letter, there's other things in it that they actually just contain inaccuracies. They say they chip from the Mackenzie Highway, 150 yards towards Quezon Crescent a couple of years ago. Well, no, they didn't. They chipped a small access onto the highway, just an approach, I would call it. Very short, almost just to the first corner. I live in Fort Simpson. Who are you trying to fool? This letter contains inaccuracies. And I don't like it when I get told inaccuracies and misinformation in them. I mean, if you're gonna try to lead me along, at least stick to the facts. That's not the facts. So I posted that on my Facebook page. Anybody can read it. You can read the original letter, and read that. Residents of Fort Simpson will know what they see. And, let's put the blame where it belongs, which is with the GNWT. All right, that's all I've got to say on that one. Anybody else have any thoughts on the letter?
Keep us informed.
I will.
I didn't see the letter.
You'll get it. I will, right after this, I'll send you a copy. And maybe we can meet together with, see what can be done. All right, 12 bylaws, there are none. There's 3 items tonight that are either in correspondence and could have calls for action. And I do see Julia that's over here, and that's 13A, a letter from Julia regarding her property taxes. And I know this is related to an issue that she had brought up to us before, right? Did you want to come up and just go over it real quick, or, yeah, might be better. You can stay there or come up here, whatever you like. Okay. Just might be easier to just summarize that for us again, remind us what occurred.
So in 2017, I took over the property at Bannock Land. It's a small rental unit, like, I don't know, maybe less than 1,000 square feet. Maybe around 800 square feet, so bungalow. It's rented property. And it was the assessment. I think over 150,000. And that was due to the previous owner having 2 identical units on the property. And before he sold to us, one of the houses was moved, but it was never reassessed. So, and last year, I actually went into the village to complain about this because I kind of was pulling my hair. Well, I'm like, why am I paying more on that property than I am in town when there's actual zero services provided to that farm, like a whole other office. But, and then it was brought to my attention, oh, well, it's multi-unit. I'm like, well, there's only 1 unit on there. And then, well, that's not a collective MACA. So then I got in touch with MACA, and then they told me, well, the village never informed me that there was any changes to the property, it wasn't reassessed. I'm like, well, it needs to be reassessed, so they reassessed it, but brought the assessment down to $77,600. And this tax year, that $845.68 was actually what I was invoiced for the taxes. I based the 2018 and 2017 my assessment based on my personal residential property that I live in, the mill rate for that year, and the same assessed value of $77,600. So it's quite a significant difference from what I paid and what the assessed value is for this year. So I would just kindly ask the village to pass a motion to basically give the financial officer authority to reassess these taxes. Because the person at NACA, told Ben or me that it's really up to the village to make these changes, and Ben told me he would not be able to do it without a motion from council. So that's what I'm here tonight to ask. To have my taxes reassessed from 2017 and 2018 to reflect the actual improvement on the property.
Okay, just got one question, a couple questions. Julie. So this year now you've received the tax bill, right?
Pardon?
So in 2020, you received tax bill just lately, just for this year's taxes?
Yeah, oh yeah, this year, so I'm actually asking for 2017, 18, and 2019.
Right, so in 2020 now?
Yeah.
What do you expect, like, what's the tax? Yeah, it says
So,
anything.
yeah, that's my actual tax bill for this year. It is $348 a month.
Okay, so that's the right amount
Yeah.
in your view. And that's because you got the rezone from multi-unit residential to residential?
Well, I
I
made
think
it,
we did pass it back.
I did submit an application that I didn't really actually
Yeah.
follow up to see.
And that
But,
was,
NACA actually reassessed it as well on their,
okay.
whatever, their tax rule or whatever.
So, the amount's probably like, looks like about $6,000, then, is it?
Yeah, I've done a recalculation, assuming that council was to agree to do the reassess it based on current assessment of 77,000. Reassess it would be looking at it retroactively from 2017 to 2019. I've done my calculations, but it's just what I have here. Maybe I should just give councillors copies of this and then give them so. That is assuming that council was to agree to retroactive assessment. Okay, so the first section looks at 2017 to 2019 as assessed value based on current assessment from market. So the middle rate from 2017 is 9.0, and then 2018 is 8.878. The same. 2019 the same thing. Then the school middle rate 1.95. 2017, 2018, 1.97, and 2019, 2.02. Municipal tax will be as shown 698.40, 688.93, and then 688.93. School tax will be 151.32, 152.87, 156.75. So the total will be 2,537.21. Now, the second section, I'm looking at the revised, comparing the revised assessment with the amount actually paid. So in 2017, I've just picked up these figures from the top one. So if you look at 2017, it's just the same as the total in 2017 from the first section. So assuming it's revised, we have 2017, but 849.72, 2018, 841.80, 845.68, and 2020 will be 484.01. So the total will be 3,385.22. Then she made some payments in 2017, the actual property tax that she paid. So 2017, She paid 2,218.76. 2018, 2221.27. The total is 4,440.23. She hasn't paid the property tax for 2019 and 2020. So I just put in the answer. So if you take 3385.22 plus 1693.869, and you take out what she's paid, 4440.03, she will still be owing property tax of 638.
Your math doesn't make sense to me.
Does it make sense? It makes sense because you haven't paid your 2019 property tax and 2020 property tax is not paid.
Yeah, but if you recalculate it, you do it. Right?
So, yeah, if you look at 2019, I use a recalculated figure.
So,
I use a recalculated figure for 2019 and then recalculated figure for 2020. But you actually use, in your statement, you are saying that 2227.92 is the assessment, but you haven't paid that. You didn't pay 2227.92 in 2019. I looked at property tax.
yeah, I know, I didn't say that.
Yeah,
That's,
it's not paid.
that was the, I didn't say it was paid.
Yeah.
But that's the previous assessment, right?
Yeah, in your account balance, you have 902.92 as if you have overpaid, but you haven't paid.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's the total of all of the years that I calculate, we add 2017, 18, 19, 20, the $3,385.22, right? That's what I would owe total to the village, and I paid $4,440.33.
Yes. And you haven't paid 2019, you haven't paid 2020. 2019, you'll be owing 848. That is the recalculation. That is what you will owe. And then 2020, you are still owing 848.01.
But I'm asking you to recalculate, so that would mean I would still have a credit of $1,000.54.
No,
Why not?
because if you look at the statement, what I have done, I've recalculated your figures based on the current
Yeah.
values. So based on the current values from 2019 to 2020, the taxes will be 3,885.22.
Right.
Then we have to take out what you have paid already.
Yes.
Yeah. So what you've paid already for 2 years is 4,440.03.
Yeah.
The remaining 2 years, 2019 and 2020, you haven't paid them. So recalculated them, and these are 845.68 and 848.01.
Well, if you're including it in the revised property taxes of what I owe, why are you adding it again as unpaid? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So.
You're
if you
right,
look
you're
at
right,
that-
you're right. I'm sorry, you're right.
How that changes?
Yes, you're right.
Just that last one where it's
Is that the last one that is repeated? I'm sorry, you're right, you're right.
What is the final result of that then?
It will be,
A credit of.
yeah, it will be a credit of
$1,000.
1,054, yes, all right, I'm sorry. So it means I'm overcharging you. Sorry.
I think it's just like one extra line under that.
Where did these actually go? How's it moved? Yeah. So that's my request to the village, that these taxes are to actually reflect what was on the property, not that it was up to the village to make this change, and I've seen this council forgive greater debts, so I think it's an unreasonable request.
Okay. Well, just for argument's sake, I wrote out what could look like a resolution, a motion to address that issue. I don't know if any councilor wants to, put this forward. The council paid, and this is another thing, technically we'd have to pay the arrears taxes to create the credit, because we can't forgive taxes. It's a technical aspect to it, but,
No, you can't, I've seen that before.
oh yeah, but what we would be doing is actually just paying them. We can't undo taxes, it's just part of the legislation, so what we would have to do is pay it, and it would be the same thing. You get the credit, it's the legislation, and I don't think technically we're allowed to forgive.
Well, not asking to forgive, just to reassess, correct?
But even that may be impossible. I don't want to make a resolution that creates a problem with MACA, so I'd rather say that we're going to pay amounts owed. No difference, comes out of the same bank account, so to speak, right? Just same effect too, you end up with credit. So I would just say pay the taxes for Julia Tetzel on lot 584, plan 3952, to reduce taxes owing to create a credit of $1,054.91 as of August 4, 2020, as per calculation based on what she should have, or what should have been paid by Julia Tetzel if proper zoning and assessments had been done according to actual property use, type of development, and assessment. So we're recognizing that, there should have been a different way of taxing this in the past, and that we would be adjusting for that. But we have to adjust for it by, I'm pretty sure, just paying. You can't go back and say, well, we forgave or we adjusted. Forgive and adjust, I mean, everybody could ask for that. See, and that's why in the legislation, it doesn't happen that way. Because everybody won. This is an unusual case, though. I mean, I think in fairness, she didn't have, now what happened here is the taxpayer missed an opportunity, I would say, but it's an easily missed opportunity. You get a chance to register an objection to the taxes that are being given to you. And she was just a brand new homeowner, didn't realize perhaps that was not the proper tax rate. She didn't find out until later when she started doing a little research. For all she knew, that was the right tax rate, the right tax bill. But you can file an objection, and it's an appeal, and you go in front of a little tribunal, partly made up by the tax assessor, usually a representative of the village, and they go through it. And if they had heard what she was saying at the time, I think something maybe would have been done. Yes, she needed to change back to a single residential to attain the lower mill rate. Probably immediately she would have been told, yes, there's no extra house on there, so you're not being taxed for that. The second house is in the roof. It's just a fairness thing, right? And we all make mistakes. She came in as soon as she knew for sure what had been going on, and she did make the changes. They're done now, and they're not going to occur again. They're not non-recurring. Yeah, Councilor Lappin.
Well, didn't she come to us about 2 years ago about this?
She did.
Last summer.
She did, and I think what we were going off of that time was a recommendation that we can't go back and undo. She had the chance to make an objection, do an appeal when she got her very first tax bill. She missed that opportunity, so we can't go back and adjust it under the tax legislation, property tax laws. Now, do I do that? Well, I think, yeah, you might not be able to adjust her taxes. They're done, they're over, because she missed the appeal. However, that doesn't mean we couldn't give her a grant in her name, pay those taxes to create that credit, which in fairness is probably the way most people here would want to be treated in the village. She didn't have a big house, she didn't have two houses on the lot, it was a residential lot, it was one single unit. What should she have normally been charged? Well, she calculated that out for us. You know, on a technicality, should we enrich ourselves at her expense? I don't think anybody would really want that to happen to them. So in my mind, yeah, I think we should help set the record straight and remind residents that too, whenever they see something they don't like, be sure to get the objection assessment signed and sent back to us so we can deal with it. It's a sign that we're fair. I don't think this is gonna spur a whole lot of people going backwards and saying, well, look at this. Yeah, any, Councilor Lafley?
Wasn't it the village's fault that the way it was assessed? You know,
Yeah,
or they assessed it wrong?
yeah, the assessor should have probably caught that, not seeing the second house on the unit, but they typically don't go around and eyeball every single property. They actually rely on the taxpayer to notify them of a change like that. Every time they do a general tax assessment, every 5 to 10 years, they'll go around and physically inspect every property. But in between, they just give you the same old bill that they've been giving you. And that's why the onus ends up being on the taxpayer. A new home buyer may not be aware of all these little technicalities, and easy to miss. It's not a huge amount of money either, but I know for one person it is. To us, it's just something we can correct rather easily. And Julia owns 2 properties now. One, she's a taxpayer, she pays her bills. I don't want to harass people over bills that were bigger than they should have been. Yeah, Councilor Hassan?
Thank you. Should we pass a motion or?
We could. I know I'm a little lengthy here and what have you, but the net effect of it is that we're going to find a way to pay what we can show on our books as a balance owing and correct it to be a credit, according to the calculations done by our SA, except for that last line is going to change, yes.
Start with the motion.
Okay, well, that's moved by Councilor Hassan. Okay, I'll go with Councilor Belfontaine's, caught my eye first. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, that's 7. 7 for it on the games. Motion's carried. Okay, thanks,
Thank you,
Julia.
Council.
Thanks for coming down. All right, we have a letter from Karen and Nick Simpson discussing a private road. I think you should probably withdraw from this one, Councilor. The road idea would benefit you as well as a resident down there, and you're not, while you're part of a group of people down there, I think it'd be better if you did speak for this particular issue. Yeah.
Oh, sure, well,
Yeah, it's not a financial benefit to you to have the village take over the road. Yeah, they're of a larger group. Yes, but I think to avoid the perception, I would recommend we don't sit in on this one. And normally we leave the room and then we call you back as soon as it's over.
I don't think that it's actually there, I don't think, my understanding was when I read the paperwork, I'm going to be, like, we had to talk about this, right? We were talking about this conflict issue, and I was explaining to you that if I wasn't gonna get any money from it,
Right.
then I'm not in conflict, there's no conflict of interest. And what I read was that unless I live in my father's house, unless I live in my father's house, then I'm not, it's not.
Yeah, there are some
So
things
if you,
there.
so if you have my dad's a man, property and everything, right?
Yeah, yeah, under the very narrow definition of conflict of interest, I think you might be technically correct. I just think it might be wiser to step out because I'm not an expert on it, and, by sitting in on it, you open yourself up to the possibility that somebody would say, wait a minute.
That's a conflict of interest for there to be a road going down to where I live.
Yeah.
For the village to take over that, I don't see the cash benefit, I'm not
Yeah, I'm
gonna
not
benefit from the
forcing-
contract, I'm not
forcing
gonna get
you
the
to
contract
pay.
to do any improvements or anything, where's the money?
I know you're part of a larger community of interest of people down there.
Well, but I know but like I'm saying, I read the rules,
Right.
regarding conflict of interest. And what it says in there, that basically, if I'm not gonna get paid for the job, for whatever decision we're making, it's not gonna be money coming to me, then it's not a conflict. And even if it's my dad who's gonna benefit from it financially, that's not a conflict either, because we don't live in the same house.
Right. I see it as more like, the property values could be enhanced, and your own property there. A better road provided by the village would perhaps increase your property values. That could be an indirect way.
Maybe, I don't know, like I said, according to what my understanding
Right.
of the rules were, I haven't seen conflict, but if you think that that's a conflict, then I'll accept your experience.
To me, I just-
Experience, knowledge, you have a lot more experience
I
than you think.
don't wanna force everybody to leave the table, I have no right to do that, Randy. So all I wanna do is just highlight that it could be a conflict, but you explain why you think it isn't right now. You may,
Like I said, my understanding, no money coming to me, or then it's not conflict, right? That's a conflict. It was when you got the one guy, saying, give me the business for my company or whatever like that, there's a paycheck involved.
yeah.
This is not a paycheck, there's no paycheck involved.
Did you want to hear what other councilors think of it?
Not anymore. No, but,
It's probably,
okay, I'll be excused from this conversation, that's all right.
Okay.
Like you said, in the interest of.
what we can do, is, it's only for the protection of yourself.
Oh, I know, just for me,
What we can do, Randy, is get a little bit of legal opinion on it for future discussion.
I don't consider it, because I read the rules very carefully, and my understanding was that, it actually has to be an actual conflict.
Right.
Right? It can't just be an imaginary thing or that, like you said, because of your experience, I'm just gonna step out and let you guys have the conversation. and I'll figure it out.
A bit of legal feedback for you. We can.
Yeah, like you said, is there gonna be an imaginary check, is there gonna be a check coming if the thing, it's not.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
so that was what I perceived conflict, whereas, okay, but for now knowing this now, that there is that this is that this is a condition, that this is a situation where a conflict does exist. Now I will apply that to all the other circumstances that I see come up. So
And it's.
you can have your way, right? You can have your way right now, that you're gonna, but you come up and say it's not a conflict, this or that. For instance, we voted on a $450,000 check being written for a building thing. There's people in the room whatever. I'm gonna go on.
We'll have to have a
conversation. I'll run for it with you all day.
Don't go far. Don't go far. Go ahead. All right. Councilors, Nick, regarding their road down Spanish. There's about 15 homes down there, taxpayers, taxpaying properties. And a couple of things to think about, I guess, is every time that formula funding kicks in through MACA and, extra every mile road, we get a little bit more funding for it. The road condition has to be looked at. I think the work we have to do to bring it up to some kind of a standard that the village might deem acceptable. A whole bunch of money, you might say, well, wait a minute, we have to. I'm just, from the past, I can remember the village talking about road standards before we would be interested in taking it back. The hill, the ditching and things along that road. Now, that's true. Maybe it could be looked at. That the village has ended up taking back probably don't standard that I've heard about in the past. So what is it? Do we have standards? And would it be good to take a look at maintaining that and water services that have to go down that hill, part of the service we provide, even though you say, well, right now it's a long driveway. Karen and Nick to see, to look at it in a positive light to see, well, what is there a step process you can work through to get?
Person who yes. I didn't know this letter was going to come out. I just happened to. It was actually collected since back in property taxes for all the properties. And two, are they offering the village to take over for $1, or are they trying to sell you their improvements that they want to make? That would be my question.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've driven down that road and, you know, it's a hill.
And my other point too.
Yeah.
The village takes responsibility to access the 4 mile of it. That road. And I remember as a kid, that was a goat trail.
Yeah.
Same sort of situation, like sliding down that 4 mile hill, and you have to be super careful because it's, kind of similar situation.
Yeah.
That's part of the sheriff.
That is a territorial road still though.
Yeah.
We have talked about the possibility of transferring the road with adequate funding, but certainly with that concern in mind that the hill is potentially a costly thing to have to deal with.
So what does the village do then? They just, do snow removal on that hill? Or what does,
You know,
how does the village?
I think we try to not do anything on it because it's not our highway. We look at,
Transportation.
oh, on the 4 mile access.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do nothing on that road.
I wonder.
Yeah,
Can I
yes.
get let's get the interest in points that, rather than have a decision made on this, I think we should get some information as to what kind of taxes we practically do. And, they say there's 17 residents down there.
Yeah.
And
And,
17 homeowners or 17 renters,
right.
and
And as well, I mean, we're not engineers to look at the road. I'm interested in, an engineer looking at the road, just to identify what kind of condition it's in. You know, are there any problems that are gonna come up or things that we just wouldn't be aware of? Maybe an engineer could give us a brief report on the condition of the road. And, yeah, we'll weigh that against what we're collecting. Those for future growth down there are, and things like that. Yep.
The other, just to, my her point about whether it's homeowners or renters, my property down there is a rental property. And since it's a rental property, I am not qualified for the tax rebate when we get.
Right, so it's
So everybody that has rental properties down there is equal taxes with everyone else.
That's interesting point, yeah.
And,
Even things like that.
the village claims that they provide services, how to how do you justify that water is made available for a private contractor to deliver? Is that because you have garbage pickup at the top of the hill? That's, I mean,
Right.
that's a steep $800 a year bill for that property. I think for my property,
Right.
there's like zero services provided down the bottom. And I know the road condition isn't the greatest, but I think that's something that, this council needs to step up and take ownership of for all the money that's
Collected.
down there.
Yep. Well, okay, I take Councilor McPherson's recommendation as the one that we should probably follow. Let's table this to our committee meeting, perhaps with a little more discussion. And at least identify what it is we want to look at and making a friendly decision on this. We've got a request. Let's start the information analysis phase of this so we can come up with a reasonable recommendation. But, yeah, we're certainly not going to be able to decide tonight. It's not cut and dry. This is like a multi-year type of responsibility we're looking at taking over with unknown amounts of money that we may have to spend, unknown what we will even get in return from some of the funding for taking on the road. Too many unknowns right now, but fair enough. Taxpayer asked, we take a look at it. All right, next one. Letter from Wilbur and one, property tax. Oh, yeah, let's go back in there. Okay, next issue. Welcome back, Councilor Simpson. We have a letter from Wilbur regarding property tax arrears. In this case, the taxpayer says that he filled out a form.
Shall I make my
Okay, so that's basically declaring the conflict?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know how we're gonna let you know, sure. So, you want me to dial you back?
You can use that phone.
Oh, I'll use you. Okay, right there. Okay, so she can't hear.
Call me back.
Okay, well, there, you're muted, right? Okay. So did you hear me when I just talked?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, okay, but no, mute works, so I'm gonna just mute you and then I'll unmute you when we're done, okay? Okay, so she can't hear us and she's declared conflict. Yeah, Wilbur Adamon I'm exactly sure, a couple of years ago, he filled in that seniors rebate, which he's like in his 70s, but at the time he was okay, he was still over 65, eligible to get the seniors rebate, which means it's a territorial program, and if they reset the maximum amount of rebate that we would be willing to match the territorial rebate, and because we do 50%, if some senior fills this rebate form and we're able to give it to the MAC department, they forgive 50% of the tax. Well, they pay 50% of the taxes for the senior. We forgive the other half. That's how it works. And he says he filled that form in. He had been filling it in since he was 65. Then, for some reason, he says he filled the form in. Said the religious was lost the form because he's sure he filled that form in. And he was eligible, certainly, because he'd been getting it every year before that. He got it every year after. We brought this up last year too, but for some reason the issue was he didn't get the form. This is another one that given the fact that he had filled in the form each year before, and there's 1 year missing, and they fill the form in every year after. I can believe them. I can believe them that somehow the form got. But also is what they want to do. Again, it'd be like going back and just saying where we're going to give you a grant towards X for that particular year, and we believe your story. That's basically what we would be doing if we took care of this one. And it says in
2016.
yeah,
Okay, I remember this tax arrears issue with progress. I don't intend, at that time, when we submitted the forms, I didn't actually see the form. It could be possible that you may have submitted it at the front desk, but because I didn't see, normally I deal with this issue myself. I didn't see one for 2016. So in the following year, 2017, we submitted a form for 2017 and included that various forms rejected. That they actually approved the 2017 one. So there's been an issue that is happening. So that is what I can say about this.
right. Um,
Has this issue been ongoing, or has it come up before, or is it just all of a sudden, 2016 to now, it just sort of came back?
I think the first time he's actually returned to council, but it's always been hanging because once Maka rejects it, we can't present it again.
4 years after the fact.
See, there's another thing too. The village doesn't, oh, okay, Councilor Delphine, go ahead.
I was just wondering too, so on your taxes, is just part of the circle, right?
Yes.
Okay, is any of that interest?
No,
Or that's,
that is interest. No.
Yeah, another issue. It's not, the village isn't really proactive in the way that they call seniors. Like Wilbur, he had applied for it 1 or 2 years prior to here, he didn't apply. He didn't say, well, here's the list of people that applied last year, did those elders die or something? Why didn't they? We don't call. We know that there's seniors rebate this year, for that, we have been doing it. We don't do that. We'd like to see our seniors get their discounts if they're eligible, but we don't do that.
2017, 2018, I did write them. I remember very well. I wrote them, reminding them that they are eligible. They have at the time of submission, also paid for that because I wanted to pay. 20 hasn't come yet. The deadline. So by November 30th, every senior will qualify. So I'll make sure that I send them letters to remind all those who applied last year. But we only 65 for who is disabled.
For the first year.
But those who applied previous years, we normally send them letters to remind them. But remember the two particular seniors, I had to write them about 2 or 3 times, and there was one particular one I didn't even get the response at all. So sometimes response as to whether they are coming to apply or not. So this year I'm going to do that. But for last year, with this,
I think that's a good thing.
I think also the fact that we all know before then, we never had like consistent account system. Yeah, Lord knows there, but the staff was going on holiday, coming back before then we never had a and I think we don't even have to have more discussion, we just approve the request.
Again, I wrote up a motion, if somebody wants to take it up, fine, if they don't, just to summarize what I think he's asking for, which is that, the council give a grant to Robert Antoine to pay for his 2016 taxes, plus a fact that the village believes Mr. Antoine did apply. However, his application was misplaced. Until that's what he's telling us. That it certainly argues in his favor that he had applied previously for a couple of years. Didn't. We did have a system at that previous applicants, and then he applied every year after. Yep.
We also added there,
And then he submits upon receipt.
he lost his documents.
Right.
The documents were misplaced, so that we had some on file.
Right, that's a good idea. Substantiated by the staff authority to that. So we would ask him to do that. That's punishable by law, you don't tell a lie. I think, like you say, for a couple of years, I seem to be very aware of that discount. He talked about how he pays his bills. In it, turned to completely miss that. It's sort of, yeah, before and after. I think it's easy to misplace somehow, depending on who it was given to at the front desk. So, in fairness, I believe we should pay tax bill. That's what I believe. Anybody gonna make a motion to that effect? Say- Okay, so just to read that, motion again. The council will grant to Robert Antoine to pay, the council will grant to Robert Antoine to pay his 2016 village taxes plus arrears, village taxes, and the council will grant to Robert Antoine to pay his 2016 village taxes plus arrears, to account for the fact that village believes Mr. Antoine did apply for the senior discount at the time by Mr. Robert Antoine. By Mr. Robert Antoine. Any further discussion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in favor, none against.
That's it.
Yes. Oh, no, she declared wrong. Oh, sorry, yes. Okay. So we're moving on. To council matters and concerns. Do you have any council issues or concerns looking here?
I do just have one road construction up on the hill where the road has been fixed up, but I'm not sure if this is a concern, but when you have highway fixing their roads, there's usually surveyors out.
Okay, so you're wondering,
Yeah,
okay, I've seen some people that look like superseding job, and overseeing job, But maybe Ben could answer that question.
Yeah, an engineer on site. His name is Oliver. He's always on site. Always on site. So we have an engineer who is always on site, working with Bruce Construction and contractor.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it.
He did say that, Spencer,
Yes, thank you.
we do have a engineer who always is on site. He might not be, there's a few different spots he's got to go to, but, he is here in town. He's always here in town. He's always at one. So we do have supervision by our engineering firm here. Maybe you just didn't, when you passed by a certain site, maybe he wasn't there, but apparently he is on the job.
Okay, thank you. That's all the concern I have. Thank you.
Councilor, Daphne, do you have any council issues or concerns? Okay,
One thing that brought my attention was, when, if there's a way there, and I'll just, talk about the things that they built the road up, and so when driving the drive, and he's taking volume is in his car. So
right.
what does he have to do? Does he have to look at the village to try to get a culvert? The answer, at least he can.
Okay. So I don't know, Deputy Mayor, if you heard that, council person expressed concern over individuals' driveways being lower than the elevated road.
Himself this issue first, putting the driveways are much lower than the existing. So the engineer can say that it is part of the contract, and so the contractor will have to take care of that. You have to make sure that it comes with a part of the road level, so the contractor will take care of that.
Any further concerns?
No,
I didn't hear this response.
Oh, sorry. The response was that the contractor brought this issue up themselves, and our engineer notified them that actually it is a contractor responsibility, level the road. So that should be the solve.
I was just curious about the swimming pool. There are, it's been closed for a long time, and getting to the end, is there any possibility of there being swimming, or
Okay?
I just wonder, I heard that the pool was full of water, and that it's ready to be used. And so I was wondering whether or not, because there's bars open now, and, there's, second phase, I'm just curious to know where that was at.
I'm not very sure if we'll be opening this year because normally we use summer students to manage the pool. To be opening, so we don't have much to open the pool, so I don't think we will be opening it.
Use the pool occasionally?
Well, that we're restricted by is that phase approach to opening up in COVID, and I think pools can phase 3. That's one problem. Now, that could be mid-August or could be in September or something. Again, I might find out a little more at the meeting here this week with the health minister and
Well, swimming lessons are important for young kids and stuff, and, that's another, right? There's a reason that kids go to swimming lessons, it's for their safety, that they can swim and stuff, and so is it some other one of those things, right? We're in uncharted territory with the whole COVID-19. This is my first global pandemic. And it's a big learning experience. It's sad. It hurts a little bit to see that we have as it were. taking a major loss in our quality of life, and taxes are getting higher, they're not going down, our cost of living is going higher, our quality of living is going down. And it's a bleak outlook for the future. That's another very comforting thought moving forward. To consider that we're going to continually be subject to be injured by our own shield.
We will check into school status further from the health minister. And it's too bad, I know that.
And this global pandemic, the whole thing in itself, it's just too bad, right? I mean, at one point, where do I go to jump in the river? Because I don't want it anymore. Literally, I'm shopping for a new country now. I have to find somewhere else to live and get better conditions to live in, right? I'm on the internet now, looking around. Where can I go? Is there anywhere else you can get away from this new reality? Is there an escape from this new reality? Or is it, so there's a lot of fundamental questions like this: what we're giving up for what we're losing, right? It's like a person that will sacrifice their freedom for security. We'll lose both. Wind up with neither. And this is the situation we're in right now, right? Where we're basically having to. So, anyway, I just wanted to bring it up and express my remorse for the swimming season.
I'm sure
swimming lessons for all the kids.
I'm sure lots of people would agree, yeah. It's not the best, that's for sure. Councilor Fontaine.
One, I think most people already know, but the vet clinic had moved. So we were expecting the vet to be here from August 5th to 10th, but something came up and we had to reschedule. So they did email that had appointments already, but it is going to move. We don't know dates yet. There's posts on Facebook so people will know, but maybe we can put up some posters around the community. Also, that would let other people know. There's a lot of people not on Facebook that wouldn't know about it. So if we can put up some posters for that. And the new bridge, I don't know, I'm sure everyone's on Facebook. It's like everybody in town all of a sudden is walking around, checking the bridge. You see it everywhere. It seems like people really like it. One thing I noticed when I was there though was garbage. People were doing it, and I noticed somebody actually kind of posted that they went and collected up some garbage as well. So maybe we could get a garbage can, one of the barrel-proof ones, if that's possible, to put hopefully on the side. Because I saw garbage in the water and on the bridge and on both sides of it. So it's just too bad that we've got this great thing now, and people, and if you're going there, it's not that far. You could walk back, get your prop can in your hand, and throw it in the proper garbage can. But too bad that we have this thing, everybody's so proud of it. They're posting pictures of it, and we've got garbage floating in the sky. So that's a little disappointing, but I think if you put garbage cans, I can do people use them, because the rest of the village looks good. You don't really have a problem. But I don't think we have a big problem with living, but I think that would help with that. And then two things just to put on the radar. One, the old gas station there is run down. I don't think we can at least forward that. I know we're talking about other options we might have, but if we can maybe just put plywood in the doorway just to prevent it from getting blown in, that would be cool. And I still like the idea of, right now it's summertime, but winter will be coming, and I would like to look at the idea of using some space. Right now, what I'm thinking of is our old village office by the library for a shelter, and again, it would be a very basic, like just so that we could have something for people if they have nowhere to go. Maybe they've been drinking and nobody wants to let them in. This so that they're not finding anything they shouldn't. And if you kind of have no questions asked, you just need a place to sleep. Come on in, you don't care if you're drinking, it's just a place to sleep. Obviously, if there's issues that are trying to cause harm, we would have to be all police get involved or the medical attention. But I would like to look at having some sort of safe space for people. Because I think that is important. I don't think any of us want people to be outside freezing. And we do have a space that's here, and it's right there. And if we could do something like that, it would also create a couple of jobs. Because I don't think we can have one single person working there, but we just get a few people. And it's just, this guy needs to put it out there for now. But I need to speak to a couple of people just to see if I can get more information that I can bring back.
Okay.
But just put on the.
Yeah. Councilor Roger, any council issues or concerns?
None.
Okay. Councilor Hassan?
I have three things. First, I would like to, my condolences to Council Olivier on his loss, and good to see you back healthy after an accident that we went through. That's one. The second thing is, might bring the issue of the tipping fee for the dump, because personally I have some concerns with regards to the dump, how we do the dump, what kind of service people get. Like, people, they dump their garbage and they pay for that. People will have to bring the oil, if you have like rice, you have to take the bus. I don't know where these regulations came from. If we have a policy or some procedure, I don't know. I want, if possible, we can discuss from the next meeting, that's fine. The third issue is just a simple issue. I believe the council left working area. When you are going to the people side there by the hill, those trees are very old and people start complaining about them. They say even they use signal when they go there, and they are worried on the way. So if they can clean the road or cut down these trees. So they are asking about that. So many people asking about that. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. All right. Then, a motion. In the meeting, I've got a motion. Who signs the name also looks like an NY?
That's New York.
I think I signed one.
You want this one to be, okay, yeah. So Councilor Simpson moves and seconded by Councilor Lafferty that council adjourn regular meeting RM15-2020 at 9:30 p.m. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Deputy Mayor, in favor?
Yes.
Okay, that's 7-4, 9-8, motion carried. And meeting's over, everybody. Very much. Next meeting. Okay. I'll let you go there. Okay.